Welcome to part 2 of creating the WDET guitar. Well, with the raw wood chosen by Gabe Currie and Sabrina Nelson, it was then taken to Gabriel's studio to begin creating the guitar body. The chosen piece of wood comes from Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and in the 1860s, some of the wood sunk to the bottom of the lake and has been there for well over 100 years. Here's Gabriel talking about what makes this wood so special.
This is truly virgin white pine, the last of its kind, and really specific in tonality. It has a very wide range in tonality. Very full as far as the spectrum is concerned, and the response, the weight, the tonality from highs to lows, very even in response, loud, percussive, all the things that you want out of a good instrument. Very resonant as well. So for me, it's always interesting and fascinating to see up close and personal how the grain patterns in the wood and the bark and the inclusions, some of the growth rings and things like that, but really cool with this stuff since it's been submerged for, 100 years or better, to see what's been going on with the outside bark or what's left of it, and how the grayness and the coloration of the wood is, and then flipping it over as we cross-cut it and examining the growth rings and just the growth of the tree over its lifespan, what that represents and how this thing has lived its life and the preservation of it, just being underwater for that many years. It's just fascinating. It smells completely amazing.
The first step in the process is to put the wood through a sander several times until the perfect thickness is reached. Gabriel, who was an apprentice of the famous guitar maker Leo Fender, uses a template from a long-lost 1969 prototype that came directly from Leo Fender's lab. Gabriel has the only one of its kind and is using it to draw the shape of the guitar body. As he skillfully cuts the wood, we start to see the guitar come into shape. Using a router, Gabriel routes the outer perimeter and recessed cavities for the electronics and the neck of the guitar. Sanding was done on the guitar body on an orbital sander for some of the final preparations before handing it off to Sabrina Nelson, where she will transform this raw piece of wood into a work of art.
It's a really premier building wood for back then, but it also has a really resonant quality, and because of it being compressed and under the water for 100+ years, it's taken on some of the mineral content and some of the other things that make it a really prime material for making musical instruments. So when we moved here and I found the source of it and discovered that it was available, I hopped on it, and we've been milling this straight from the bottom of the lake. So this has never touched a mill. This has never been into anybody else's hands, commercially speaking, except for mine and now yours.
Awesome. Wow. I'm so thrilled and honored, the idea that this almost could possibly be 500 years old, and also is very much like an honoring relic, that will be something that holds the sound and carries the sound of the lake, of where it's from, and also those souls that I'll put on top of it as well. And your artistry with my artistry, I think will be a great tandem combination.
I'm excited.
Sabrina had been thinking about this guitar for weeks and talked about her thought process, but kept her artistic direction a secret.
My vision for the guitar is to reflect the idea of making sure that Gabriel's art is seen. So sometimes artists, their egos are there, but I want to make sure that this is a collaboration, that we show the grain of the wood and we respect the wood and show, You know, I know when I was a kid, I learned that each of these little layers represents a year, right?
Yep.
That this tree or the trees grew. So I want to make sure that I'm honoring the nature of it first. And then nurturing the idea of his artistry and taking what he has designed and made and then putting my drawing on the top of it. So I want to make sure that the grain of the wood shows. So I'm going to use graphite on top of it, and then that will kind of be encased in whatever coating that you put on top of it.
When I first found out about these timbers, I had originally just wanted to keep them all for myself and just make a very limited, very secretive run of instruments that would only be shared amongst professionals. And Jeff Bass was one of the guys that actually he got the first one. I felt like I felt like it was still it still needed to be shared. So when I called in and talked to her about the idea and said, hey, you know, I think it'd be cool if you guys, you know, needed or wanted me to support the station, I would love to do something like this. And so we kind of tossed it back and forth, and immediately Sabrina's name was brought into the conversation, and she was thrust into the operation. So this is something that I've been thinking about doing on a piece, using the guitar as a canvas for many years, and just haven't had the correct timing and the opportunity to do it. I felt like this would be the best time to do it. Just finished building this guitar, basically routing the body, doing all the final cuts and routes for it, and now I'm going to hand it to Sabrina, and she's going to take it and do her art with it, and then I'll get it back, do the final coating and protective finishes on it, and then I will commence to assembling it, putting it together, and electrifying it so that we can get it to the next artist.
Once the guitar body was safely in Sabrina's arms, its new temporary home would be her studio, where the creative process would begin. Sabrina has been creating beautiful work for decades, but this is the first time her canvas is a guitar body. The journey of the WDET guitar continues. Stay tuned.